make it further. Who knows? The parable of the wheat and tares.
Okay. Mm.
Another parable he put forth to them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. That's
Mm.
dastardly enemy.
That's the weeds, right? The
So yeah,
tear. And we're in Matthew 13:24.
Matthew 13:24. But while men, so yeah, they were doing bad things. But when the grain had sprouted and produced a crop, then the tares also appeared. So the servant of the owner came and said to him, Sir, did you not sow good seed in your field? Didn't you? Like, we planted this. This isn't what we
Right.
planted.
Yes. We didn't plant the tares, right?
How then does it have tares? He said to them, An enemy has done this. The opposition.
The opposition, yes. Yes. Good good analogy. I mean, good description.
He said to them, An enemy has done this. The servants said to him, Do you want us to go and gather them up? So you want me around? They knew who it was too.
No, no, round up the
Oh,
tares.
the tares, not the people. Okay, okay, okay,
Maybe
okay.
not too bad, you know. In other words, do you want them to pull up the weeds, right?
Better,
Uh,
yeah. I think that would be a yes.
yeah. Well, let's see.
Oh,
I've heard this story before. So
let both grow together until
where
the.
does oh yeah, reading 29, because then he gives you a
Oh,
yes or
yes. He said to them, An enemy has done this. Do you want to together gather them up? But he said, No, lest
no.
while you gather up the tares, you also uproot the wheat with them. Ooh,
So that was,
okay.
yeah,
He
interesting, isn't
thought
it?
about it more than
That
I
was,
did.
I know. That was interesting the first time I heard it, because I understand what you were saying. I was probably saying, yeah, pull up the weeds, but
I mean, they
it,
could have just snipped them
right.
and left,
I
but
mean, there
who
is a
knows?
time, like sometimes when you can pull up the weeds, like when they're young or whatever, but then there is a time when they kind of are so close to the real fruit, the real thing that you're growing, and you pull it up and it disrupts the other one. You've probably seen that too. You're like pulling up a weed beside the flower and you pull up the flower too because it comes up together. It's like,
Yeah, they're
so
interconnected down there.
yeah, in the roots. Yeah, exactly. So,
And him being a farmer would know
yes.
much more than me.
Yeah. Plus, this is Jesus talking and he knows everything. So,
Right. True.
so we're just trying to keep up.
Yeah, you're
Thank you.
right. Let them grow together until the harvest, and at the time of the harvest, I will say to the reapers, first gather together the tares, bind them into bundles, and burn them, but gather the wheat into the barn.
And that's it. That's the end of the parable. What's your thoughts on that?
Don't react to people, because that's what it is, right? Is that people go out of their way to like do something, or you may perceive it as such, and like when you're doing something and growing something, you need to be mindful not to react to other people because regardless of whether you are justified in being angry or not, in being angry, you are wrong. Don't react to people. That's not the correct choice. You shouldn't be doing that.
Because
Um,
it could throw
because
you off the path. It
if
could
he was
uproot.
like, keep going.
It could uproot your idea because you're on the path, you know what you're doing, and then the other person's like sways you or tries
Right.
to.
You had a plan. You planted corn, let's say, and somebody came and planted the weeds, and you didn't want them to plant the weeds, but you have to not let your emotions get to you in the moment, right? Because that's frustrating and annoying. And why would somebody do that? And is there somebody after me? Do we have bigger problems here, right? There's a whole nother book attached to this parable that could be written on the scenarios that led up to this event.
Yeah.
But, you know,
This is what we have, right?
Don't let other people get to you. You're fine. It doesn't even matter. As long as like you're doing stuff in God, you should be fine. You don't have nothing to worry about.
And God will, yeah, he'll tear out the tears, right? I mean, the end of the tears is not good, right? For because he puts them in a fire, right? Burns them. And then the good,
Right. And maybe that was it. Maybe the decision for me to take out those tears before was a fearful decision, and it was a decision that came from a place of fear. Whether and it's like regardless, it's an emotion that we shouldn't be having
the
at
fear, he
all.
doesn't want us to have fear, right?
But
True.
if you're able to look past that fear and be like, yes, I don't want them in there and they could be harmful. And it's like if you just leave them there, they're plants at the end of the day. You planted the seeds before, they should be fine. But then again, knowing that like you having that reaction of undoing another's work could have greater consequences upon either your or a greater plan. And like that decision would be, if you don't
Exactly.
have the knowledge, is to just, if you don't have the knowledge to justify that decision is just made to validate your feelings.
Like in verse 29, right? So he says, no, least while you gather up the tares, you also uproot the wheat because you're getting rid of some of the good by
Right.
worrying about that
But
bad
yeah. Well, it's the
in knowing.
bad in this case, right? He's still got the wheat and that. So bad is actually just a false label. There
Yeah,
was no bad or good. They just did something that was to be perceived in such a way to elicit a response from somebody.
I mean,
And
right. I mean, I
it's
don't think he
done
wanted the
purpose.
tares, but at the end, he was able to just separate them. It was easy to separate them at the end, right? Because
Right.
maybe
It was
because you can see, you can
right.
see.
Because he had faith in his wisdom and knowledge.
Yeah,
But it would be in this terms, having faith in God in your decision making.
yeah. So it is right. So, and if we think of it as in the parable, because he starts the parable in 24. He's like, the kingdom of heaven is like. So it's a parable to describe what the heaven is like. So if you God knows the people that are trusting in him, and he knows the people that are not trusting him. So he knows how to separate at the end, and we don't have to worry about it. If you look
Is
back,
this, yes. Is this going like the second mile?
I'm
So
not
they
sure.
went the first mile in planting it, the things, right? The things. And you're
Oh,
going the second mile by allowing it to grow
oh,
and just dealing with the repercussions, which
and
was
then
nothing. He just burnt it. And at the end of the day, it was nothing.
right. So God took care of it, really.
Right. And so, like,
Can you
if
trust him through the bad time? Maybe as well.
can you trust him enough to realize that, like, what you think is bad, you have no idea.
Right.
And maybe by you getting rid of stuff that you perceive as bad,
And spending all your energy maybe on doing that, because it's in the terms of weeding. And I mean, I'm not saying don't weed, we're not saying don't weed, we might have to weed some,
we,
but in this term it does take a lot of physical stuff, right? So you're using effort and thing to get rid of something where God is saying just leave it so he can weed it out. Now we're talking in a spiritual sense as well, but he's shown the example, right?
I mean, it could be that this one is like, it's probably more physical, where like people are it's physical people's actions and how you're
It's
supposed to
true.
react to them and whatnot.
Because then, yeah. And then, I mean, it is good to know what he's trying, what not,
So that comes from
God
your
isn't
mind.
trying, what we're trying to understand what God is saying, but God knows what he's saying. But what he's comparing is the kingdom of heaven is like. So he's trying to help us understand the kingdom of heaven.
Right.
Wow. That is a lot to think about, but beautiful. Thank you, Lord.
Right. Find some peace.
Lots of peace, I think
Find some
so.
peace.